on loving hearts with no regret. Solitude and loneliness, they do for the crown in their due way. Rest has found a bride inside. Although there are castles she can hide away in, high in the tower enslaved pride, waiting for relief she can't describe. I'm running, I'm scared, most holy, can you find me?
With
differently today. You know the thing between us shouldn't go away. The night that moves through now and yesterday, on either end of it, but amidst it makes a way to lead us through. Need you forever. Can't get through this cold December. I remember without you. I need you forever. I need you forever.
Invite you to be a part of what happens in our community throughout the week here. If you'd like to get this information that I'm about to give you in your email, you can fill out one of these forms, which you'll find on a box that looks like that, and this will come to you every Monday in your email. It's like a broken record. Does anyone want to host community dinner this week? If you would have any interest in doing this, it's a great opportunity to meet people. It's a potluck style dinner, so you don't have to feed everyone from your own kitchen. There's a sign-up sheet online, and I'm sure you could get directions
Yes, I
on.
was going to mention that, Janelle. Thank you for saying so. If you got some emails this week, if you opened those and looked at them, or just commented about the amount, either way, one of those would have been to sign up for community dinner, which is great. The other is to sign up for communion, if like Cheka did the setup and Amanda did the introduction. There's little sheets here. We'll pass those around if you want to put your name on one of those little duties. Yeah, there's a 5 o'clocker. We'll pass that around, and all these things happen because people say they want to do them. So if you want to sign up for any of that, if not, just pass it along. Somebody else will. Thank you, Doug.
Yoga, this happened last week, so I think we can move forward.
It was awesome. Amanda did fabulous.
Recap, this was awesome, but it's over. This is this week, but
Well, this is going to be awesome. It is going to be this Saturday, and we'd like to have 25 people sign up. So if you haven't done so, if you're interested in helping out, you don't need to be good at construction, but that would be fine. We're also going to do some cleaning and probably some reorganizing. So any hands we can get, kids are welcome. We'll have lunch available just for 4 hours on Saturday. So it'd be great to have you, and we have some exciting stuff. So I'll pass this around.
all right, Janelle.
I'll do this. So my name is Janelle Vick. If you don't know me, I'm the administrator here. And a couple of things I wanted to mention. Giving statements for 2012. If you gave it all in 2012, there I have envelopes out on the big table there in alphabetical order. So if you're here, you can grab them tonight. That'd be great. And then I don't have to mail them, because otherwise I'll just mail them out this week. And then also wanted to mention contributing to the building fund. As a lot of you know, we've started a 3-year kind of plan. We started in the fall to raise money for buying the building. We wanted to raise $625,000. Currently, we are at about $220,000. And we just want to remind people that there's this white form that's at the info bar. If you haven't made a building fund contribution, you're still thinking about it. We're going to constantly be talking about it in the future months and years. And so we want to continually invite people from the community to make a pledge and contribution, which is timely because pledges for our upcoming fiscal year has begun. Our fiscal year runs April through March, and so after we get out the giving statements and you kind of see what things have been like for you last year and you're doing taxes, this is the time of year where we ask people in the community who are covenant participants who've been around, especially in the last year, and maybe don't even know that we make pledges, and we start that up in April, and we ask people to make a pledge for the a majority of our giving comes from automatic giving. So we have sustainable givers that we say if you give automatically and you're not going to make a change, you don't have to fill out a new form. But if you're going to make a change, whether you have to lower it or increase it, or you're new to the community, we'd love to have some new people who want to be new covenant participants and join our community. And you don't have to be a covenant participant to make a pledge either. So if you just came here tonight for the first time and you want to make a pledge or a one-time contribution, please do so. But these yellow forms will be out there, and we'll be announcing this for the next couple weeks. And covenant participants, you'll be getting an email as well, because we'll be having a covenant participant meeting March 17th, but you'll be hearing more about that in the future. So a lot of information, but it's really good information, really important. So if you have any questions, come talk to me.
Hello, I'm Jessie, and next Thursday we're going to be starting this practicing spirituality group, and I kind of selfishly am starting this group because I really want to work on incorporating more spiritual practices into my own life, and I want other people to encourage me to do that. So the group, we're going to try to meet, we'll meet every month, the first Thursday of the month, and the purpose of the group is just to kind of try different spiritual practices together, and then also just to encourage each other in our own personal practices. So feel free to come on Thursday, November 7th.
I'll say something about that. So registration just starts tonight. We have an annual women's retreat that we have coming up March 9th and 10th. I made these little blue slips. They're, again, around the corner in the info bar. Ladies of the community, if you'd like to come, $75. You can also add a Friday night stay, and we figure out carpool through Facebook. It's an amazing time with women. It's a little 24-hour getaway, a little respite, about an hour and 15 minutes away. So fill this form out. You can put it in the giving box, and we'll also have ways to sign up online too. And if you have any questions, you can ask myself or Catherine Trill Green, who is on your name.
All right, so want to talk about the Guatemala trip? All right, every year we go to Guatemala as a community, and we do some home building on Lake Oxagon. I have not been on the trip, but I've been to the site, and it's fantastically beautiful. I know people have really great things to say about it. If you have any interest, you can talk to Victor, who's pictured there, or a number of other people around that should be able to point you in the right direction. Easter Art Event.
I'll speak to this. We're planning some Easter events, some big ones, from installation stuff that we'd like to do in the room, and we'd like to get everybody involved. So if you're interested in participating in that, adults and children, anybody, all are welcome. And then tomorrow night we start figure drawing, and we have a mystery guest who is a porch member. So you might want to show up and draw the mystery.
Papa, is anyone? Oh, please, you go first.
I'm first. I offer a fitness boot camp in the basement here on Monday and Wednesday nights. You're all welcome to come. If you don't want to come to it and you want a little bit more accountability, I'm doing a fitness challenge for the month of February. The title is Lose Your Love Handles. Doesn't everybody want to do that? So it's $20 to enter, and if you win $100 cash plus free personal training sessions. Pick one of these up or ask me more questions or whatever. Thanks. They're out there. The flyers.
Just a quick one. If you are interested in date night yoga this month at Yoga Sanctuary, typically it's the second Friday in the month, the 8th, but this month I'm contemplating moving it to the 15th of the month because of Valentine's Day. So if you are interested in coming and have a preference one or the other, please just let me know. I'm just going to try to make a decision.
The latest issue of Conspire is here. In order to support this subscription, it's about $2.50 per issue, so you can put a couple of bucks. And this funding isn't coming from the church budget anymore. It's coming from a private source that's drying out. So our subscription to Conspire is going to go away unless there's some other people who want to help band together. It hasn't been supported through contributions
about to be. You can be a part of that. Wednesday, the playgroup location is
Central Library.
Central Library. You can talk to Danny if you have questions. No community dinner unless somebody signs up, and that would be an email. Sunday, 9:30, prayer and yoga downstairs in the yoga sanctuary. Gatherings at 5 and 7, and Chipotle after the 7 o'clock gathering. All are welcome every week. We have all of this on our website. If you're there, we hope you can come.
You that love lovers, this is your home. Welcome. You that love lovers, this is your home. Welcome. In the midst of making form love, made this form that melts form with love for the door. So the vestibule, watch the dust grains moving in the light near the window. Their dance is our dance, their dance is our dance. Watch the dust grains moving in the light near the window. Their dance is our dance, their dance is our dance. We rarely hear the inward music, but we're all dancing to it, directed by the one who teaches us the pure joy of the sun, our music master. You that love lovers, this is your home. Welcome. You that love lovers, this is your home. Welcome. In the midst of making form love, made this form that melts all form with love for the door. So the vestibule, watch the dust grains moving in the light near the window. Their dance is our dance, their dance is our dance.
meeting today where they named the numbers. Still reeling. They head out, and we are reading together the book of Mark. It's a gospel. Gospels are particular tellings of a happening. This particular happening is the good news story of Jesus. And each of the gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, tell a particular story. In some ways, they tell the same story, but in a lot of ways, they're telling their own unique story. And the book of Mark is put together in a particular way. Tonight's reading is the third, what we would call the third chapter, but as I mentioned, in the 10 years or 15 years of Solomon's Porch, it wasn't written with chapters. They were inserted in the 13th century, so you could find your way around the Bible. Chapters and verses were put in by scribes because people were having a hard time arguing about the Bible because they didn't know if they were talking about the same section or not. So they arranged a way that you could know you were talking about the same section. So when Mark was put together, they were put together in sets of stories, what are often in the literary context called pericopes, funny little word, but it means that there's like a set of stories that go together. And each of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, arrange sets of stories in different ways. They've each clustered them. In fact, if you've read different Gospels, you might know that John, the Gospel of John, arranges certain happenings in a different order. It has Jesus cleansing the temple early or late, different than the other Gospels. So it's a peculiar thing that these Gospel writers do. Well, I only bring that up because it's more important in John probably, or in Mark rather, than most other of the three Gospels and how it's put together. Because the four stories that we're going to read tonight, they actually are meant to be told together. Like someone who would tell you about their day with an intention about how their day went. Like if you met someone and they said, you got together with somebody and said, how was your day? And they go like, oh, it was a great day. Then they started telling you things, you would know that the things they're now describing to you are about this idea that it was a great day, right? So you are now listening to things as if they're contributing to this notion of it's a great day. Right? Well, Mark, when he's going to open with this initial story that we're going to read, then move to the next story and the next story and the next story, put these together because they inform one another, because they say something to one another. It's one of the ways that if you don't know how to read the gospel, there's good stuff in there all the time. It's fine. I mean, it's a book of the Bible, so it's got stuff in it. But it really starts to inform itself if you hear it in this way. So we're going to see four stories tonight. I'm going to interrupt. Now it sounds like This American Life. So the Gospel of Mark in four stories. I'm going to interrupt a little bit tonight with how it's put up on the screen. The guy who plays bass around here, Tim, likes to suggest that the person on the stool who puts together the visuals is doing something, and we should always be aware that that person's doing something. And I couldn't agree more as a principle, and this time as a rule. So you're going to see that I think that's the wrong sermon. Yeah, that is the wrong sermon. So that's okay. Can you find it, Brian? Okay. I know it's the wrong sermon because the one you're going to read, the one we're going to read tonight, the way it's laid out, there are four places that get mentioned in the four stories. And these four stories get clumped together. We call it chapter 3 of Mark. But these four stories get put together. And the first place that's mentioned is the synagogue. So even though the story is, then Jesus went to the synagogue and he blah, 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 I pull out just the Jesus went to the synagogue on its own slide, right? Because I think it's important that you notice that Mark has put together this story in such a way that he's moving to four different places. So I've chosen to break that one line out. But when someone does stuff like that, the ordering, the arranging, all that of things, it is... they're up to something. So there's four places. The synagogue, the lake, the mountain, and then the home. So there's four stories that all hook together in this funny way. But the way Mark tells it is, then Jesus went to the synagogue and this happened. Then Jesus went to the lake and this happened. Then Jesus went to the mountain, and this happened. Then Jesus went to a home, and this happened. And I don't think that Mark is just like, well, I don't know, he just had like a busy day. Or, I don't know, I just thought I'd arrange it this way. There's a reason that he's moving from synagogue to lake to mountain to home. He's making some commentary in the way the storyline is put together. Because it matters where something happens, right? Okay, so here it is. Thank you, Brian. So here's the synagogue. Jesus returns to the synagogue, and now the rest of the story will go. Okay, so that's just me interrupting with it. So if you want to be the reader, you can read that line. If you don't want to read the next one, you don't have to. But if you want to be the reader of the next slide, it really does tag together. But I'm just accentuating that I think that matters. Here we go.
Jesus returned to the synagogue.
A man with a withered hand was there, wanting to bring charges against Jesus. They were watching Jesus closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. He said to the man with the withered hand, "Step up where people can see you." Then he said to them, "Is it legal on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?"
All right, so this... Thank you. Sorry, Lex, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So there's this argument that's going to break out about a healing. It matters that Jesus says this in the synagogue, right? Like, Jesus isn't just walking, like at the lake, he's not arguing with people about what the law says. This happens in the synagogue, and it sort of matters, right? Okay, so there's a guy with a withered hand. It's the Sabbath. That's the day you're supposed to rest. What are they going to do about it? This is the same story that we read last week. So, but they said nothing. The story goes on.
Looking around at them with anger, deeply grieved at their unyielding hearts, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he did, and his hand was made healthy. At that, the Pharisees got together with the supporters of Herod to plan how to destroy Jesus.
So the storyline starts in the synagogue. They have an argument about when you can do healing. The people want to kill Jesus. Story 2. We read this on Tuesday at the sermon discussion group. Tim Nelson noticed that that's like how people in Minnesota talk about like having a lake home or a cabin. Like, I went to the lake. They didn't actually go to the lake, right? They went to the house that sits on the lake. But anyway, so maybe Jesus had a lake home. So he went to the lake. Now this time it happens at the lake.
A large crowd followed him because they had heard what he was doing. They were from Galilee, Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, beyond the Jordan, and the area surrounding Tyre and Sidon. Jesus told his disciples to get a small boat ready for him so the crowd wouldn't crush him. He had healed so many people that everyone who was sick pushed forward so that they could touch him. Whenever the evil spirit saw him, they fell down at his feet and shouted, "You are God's son." But he strictly ordered them not to reveal who he was.
All right, so you got to hold that story in your mind, right? He's in the synagogue arguing with, should he make this guy better or not? And the people in the synagogue want to kill him because he makes someone better. Now he goes to the lake. There's so many people that end up being healed by him that they're crushing up against him. The synagogue people reject him. The people by the lake don't reject him. And the area matters. This is from all over the place, right? If you don't have your mindset in sort of first century Mediterranean Judaic religion, you might not be thinking that the area matters very much. But if you're from that area, in the way that a religious person who has a tradition that uses holy sites would think about going to the holy site and having the access to God be more pronounced there, a Catholic going to the Vatican, Muslim going to the Temple Mount, something like this, they would understand that place mattered. When Mark mentions that the place Jesus does all of this is in Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem and Idumea and the place beyond the Jordan and Tyre and Sidon, it's like everywhere this was happening. These weren't just people in certain places. The power wasn't because he was in a holy place. The power comes because Jesus is up to something. Then this healing happens, all these people, and then Mark throws in this little line, right? Whenever the evil spirits saw Jesus, they fell down and said, "You're the Son of God," and he said, "Don't tell anybody about this." A few weeks ago we talked about the Messianic secret. hold in your mind for a minute that in the four-story set, Mark has a storyline where evil spirits are saying, we know what you're up to. They're on his side, it sounds like, right? This gets really intriguing. It's not like Jesus is like, hey, I don't want you knowing that, or hey, you're the evil spirit. Whatever is talked about with evil spirits in this passage, which is very bizarre, I mean, it's probably bizarre in the first century and certainly it's bizarre in the 21st century, we're not encouraged by the reader of this or by the writer of this to think about it as if Jesus was opposed to that happening. He just says, keep it quiet. Don't tell anyone who he is. So hold that in your head. Now, story number 3.
Jesus went up on the mountain and called those he wanted. They came to him.
Now he goes up to the mountain. If you've got in your head Jewish religious tradition, you might be thinking, oh, when God speaks to people about important things for the nation of Israel, they do it on a mountain. Moses goes up on the mountain, gets the 10 Commandments, this kind of thing. That going up on a mountain is a big deal. You're the children. All right, so up on the mountain something happens. What happens up on the mountain? Oh, this happens up on the mountain.
He appointed 12 and called them apostles. He appointed them to be with him, to be sent out to preach, and to have authority to throw out demons. He appointed 12, Peter, a name he gave Simon, James and John, Zebedee's sons, whom he nicknamed Boanerges, which means sons of thunder, and Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, Alphaeus' son, Thaddeus, Simon the Cananaean, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus.
Nice reading, Alan. So apparently Jesus, like somebody running the WWF, loves the nicknames, right? Sons of Thunder. I mean, just one of the greatest, without much explanation as to why the two brothers are called the Sons of Thunder. But he gives them nicknames. Peter, who's also known as, get the nickname Peter, who's also known as Simon, and then the Sons of Thunder, and then these other guys as well. It might be that Mark is just telling the story, or it might be that up on the mountain mattered, and it might be that he gives them the authority to throw out demons. Maybe that has something to do with back here, whenever the spirits saw him, he told them what to do. Maybe we're supposed to hear that in light of that storyline as well. All right, storyline number 4. Now he's in a house.
The crowd gathered again so that it was impossible for him and his followers even to eat. When his family heard what was happening, they came to take control of him. They were saying, he's out of his mind.
All right, now it gets interesting. So he's in a synagogue, they turn against him. Then he goes out to the lake, and there's so many people that the evil spirits say, we know who you are. Then he goes up on the mountain, appoints the 12. Then he goes into a house. The rest of his family comes around him and says, he's lost his mind. And this story goes on for a while. I was confused as to if I should suggest this as a 5th category or not, so do what you want. The legal experts then come down from Jerusalem into that same house. So Tim.
Legal experts came down to Jerusalem.
Over and over they charged, he's possessed by Beelzebub. He throws out demons with the authority of the ruler of demons.
So then this thing happens, right? This argument about, does Jesus do this, as these guys are suggesting, by the power of Beelzebub, which is a strange little word that's going to sort of conjure up some notions of early Mesopotamian sort of cult-like practices. Or, if you were familiar with the TV show Happy Days, and how Mork from Ork was introduced, who later then got his own show called Mork and Mindy, the thing that he would always say, Mork from Ork, is Beelzebub. So anyway, when I was a kid and grew up knowing that, and then saw this in the Bible, I thought, oh, that's the thing Mork from Ork said. But this meant that it was sort of the king of all the demons. A very bizarre conversation that religious people are about to have inside this house. Is Jesus doing what he's doing because he is consorting with demons? Or does he do it because something else is going on? The reason I think this argument is part of a pericope set is because Earlier, we read this little bit about where if you're standing around, Jesus is talking to demons, evil spirit people. So it's not like these rulers are like, I don't know, he's just consorting with, demons. The storyline has him consorting like that. So it becomes an interesting question as to what Mark is setting up when you have this argument at the beginning, then you have the introduction of the 12 who are given the authority to throw out demons. Then they say he's out of his mind and he's consorting as the ruler of all the demons. So these are layering together. We're about to read that part of the Bible that has scared children and religiously devoted people for centuries. Look, there's a lot of lines you can cross. There's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of bad that you can participate in. But there's always one thing. And if you do that one thing, you've gone too far. Right? This storyline that every conscientious person in religion has ever thought about is, how far does the grace of God actually go? Isn't there something you could do that would just be too much? And the next sentences of Mark has been used to play that story. The unpardonable sin is about to come up. The thing that if you do that, you're screwed for ages upon ages. There's no getting out of it. Right? Okay, so they say, over and over they charge, he's possessed by Beelzebub, he's thrown out demons with the authority of the rulers of demons, and then this.
When Jesus called them together, he spoke to them in a parable. How can Satan throw Satan out? A kingdom involved in civil war will collapse, and a house torn apart by divisions will collapse. If Satan rebels against himself and is divided, then he can't endure. He's done for.
Now we're going to stay inside the quote, and you can decide how long you want to attribute the he's still speaking in a parable. It's going to, for some of you, matter a lot. But, so he keeps going. He's done for, Jesus says, and he keeps going saying this.
No one gets into the house of a strong person and steals anything without first tying up a strong person. Only then can the house be burglarized. I assure you that human beings will be forgiven for everything, for all sins and insults of every kind, but whoever insults the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven, and that person is guilty of sin with consequences that last forever. He said this because the legal experts were saying he's possessed by an evil spirit.
All right, so there it is, Mark's version of the unpardonable sin. So on Tuesday night, we're in the discussion group, and we're talking about this, and trying to read it fresh and trying to see some other ways, trying to think about how are these ideas connected to the earlier ones? How long are we in the parable? Does Jesus stay in the parable up until that paragraph break right there, burglarized, then steps out of the parable and makes this comment? Or is all of this a part of the parable or not? Because it's going to matter, right? If a parable is sort of a metaphorical way of talking as opposed to an actual way of speaking, it's using another kind of argument set. Or what is Jesus doing here? What is he up to? The phrase forever is, like all the words, not originally an English word when Jesus uses it. He's probably using some form of Aramaic, maybe even some form of Greek. It means age upon age. Now, some people like to suggest that when a phrase like age is used, it's speaking of a time period, not eternity like we tend to speak about it. So there's a way, and Adam Serling noted this on Tuesday night, and I thought it was really helpful, where you could read that middle paragraph as, I assure you human beings will be forgiven for everything, for all the sins they commit of every kind. Whoever insults the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. A person's guilty of a sin, the consequences that last for this age and for every age to come. Right? Read it like that. This period and every other period. As a statement to say, what those guys just said here, what they just said is not a big deal. Don't worry about it. You could read that as, this is a really big deal. What those guys just said is like the biggest thing you could ever say. It's the most wrong thing you could ever do. Like Jesus steps back and goes, oh, hang on a minute. You can say anything you want. You can deliver all the insults you want. You can sin any way you want. But if you do what you just did,
That one, never forgivable, unpardonable. Consequences that last forever. Won't be forgiven. Or Jesus could have been saying, don't worry, what they just did by insulting me like that, that's not the thing to worry about. Right? I assure you. So if Jesus reads it like this, right? They say to him, he's possessed by Beelzebub. He's thrown out demons with authority of rulers and of demons. And Jesus goes, look, I'll get Satan, throw out Satan. A kingdom and a civil war is going to collapse. It's nonsense. In a house that's torn apart by divisions, it's going to collapse. And if Satan rebels against himself and is divided and it can't endure, then he's done for. No one gets into the house of a strong person and steals anything without first tying them up. Then only can the house be burglarized. Look, folks, don't worry. I assure you that human beings are going to be forgiven of everything, like all the things these guys said, for sins and insults of every kind, even like that one. But the bigger thing to worry about is that you don't participate with the Holy Spirit and that you stay guilty and you stay inside the same system you've been involved in forever. Then nothing ever gets better. Then there's no activity of the Spirit of God. And then Mark chimes in. He said this because the legal experts were saying, oh, he's possessed by an evil spirit. And you don't know what Mark means. Like, oh, he said they've just done the thing you can never ever do, or he just was clarifying that what they just did wasn't that big of a deal. That the story Jesus is sharing is one that's actually to say, look, forgiveness is going to happen. The power of the Holy Spirit, if you go back 2 chapters, John the Baptist saying, Jesus is going to come and baptize them in the power of the Holy Spirit. That's the thing Jesus is trying to initiate. So staying inside of a parable way of describing this, he says, whoever insults this coming age is the one who stays out of it all. It's not about there's actually a list of sins, and on the category there's like everything, and then there's this other list that has these things. He's using this parabolic way of saying, look, there's a much bigger story that we need to get involved in. And don't be worried if you think that the teachers of the law just accused me of something that's so bad I'm going to freak out about it. It's an interesting way to take this. Then the story goes on. We'll talk about all this here at the end. So it doesn't end there. He said this because the evil spirits, because the legal experts were saying he's possessed by an evil spirit. So it's his way of fighting back. Then it goes to this final bit.
His mother and brothers arrived. They stood outside and sent word to him, calling for him. A crowd was seated around them, and those sent to him said, look, your mother, brothers, and sisters are outside looking for you. He replied, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? Looking around at those seated around him in a circle, he said, look, here are my brother, my mother, and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother, sister, and mother.
And that's how it ends. Isn't that interesting? Like the storyline that includes the, look, I assure you that every sin's going to be forgiven, except the one, with the Holy Spirit, you insult the Holy Spirit, doesn't end there. We're still inside the house. It ends with his mother and brothers come calling for him because they think he's lost his mind. And he says, actually, my mother and brother aren't just the ones I'm biologically related to, which has been real trouble for people with certain views of Jesus and the perpetual virginity of Mary, but that's another conversation we can have if you'd like to. He's got brothers and sisters and stuff outside, like he came from a big family. Then Jesus says, actually, I'm involved in this whole other family system with anybody who does the will of God. So maybe we're supposed to understand all of this together in one thought. That Mark goes from the synagogue argument to the lake and all the people to the mountain and then into the house. And they're supposed to all inform one another. What seems obvious to me is that taking any one of these stories as their own sort of point ends you up in a different place than taking all 4 of them together. And it's intriguing that Mark chooses to write the 4 of them in this particular rhythm together. That with the naming of the apostles is the establishment of a new family. With the argument of the people in the synagogue is an argument with the teachers of the law about where the power comes from. This is classic way Mark lays out the gospel. One argument, another argument, back to the first argument, back to the second argument. So they work in like these parallel storylines that inform one another. There'll be lots of famous-y stuff in here. And if you read it in Mark, a couple weeks ago when we introduced reading of Mark and people said what they already thought about it or knew about it, somebody had mentioned that they were, they had remembered that the Gospel of Mark is written in a very fast-paced way. Like it feels like it's going really quickly. Like there's an urgency to it. I think one of the things that gives us as modern-day readers the sense that this is going fast is a chapter like this where you get 4 or maybe 5 stories laid right together and you're not asked to spend much time on any one of them. They feel like they're all moving together. So what do you think is going on where there's this commentary of story on top of others trying to say something? Or other thoughts you have about this?
I have a thought.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Fred.
Couple of things. I recently listened to a lecture on a relook at the Lucifer relationship, okay? Which apparently in early Christianity, Lucifer was kind of a partner of God.
Yeah, especially in the book of Job.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that I was very reminiscent of the book of Job as we read through, in particular, as we read through this, and also struck by how the discussions that we've had in the past about what's his name, who turned him over to Judas. The Judas discussions that we had. Was Judas an object of the devil, or was Judas an object of God?
Yes. Right, and this starts to inform that conversation. Jesus is in this conversation with in the storyline, the teachers of the law in the synagogue don't know who he is and want to kill him. And the next story is the evil spirits say you're the Son of God. The only time in the book of Mark he's declared to be the Son of God is by an evil spirit. That's not just an accident. Mark is trying to say something, right? And he's trying to say something first century that maybe we can't get access to in the 21st century, but there's something going on. Maybe Mark is trying to say the people that you think are part of the evil system might actually be the ones who know what God is up to. That's really pushing boundaries of how one is to understand Gospels.
Can I go one more layer?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a very deep layer. That's a very deep layer. I think that the other layer, though, is very interesting. It really goes back to how Mark laid it out in the beginning and how it runs through a real Pentecostal message, okay? Because Jesus said to him, it's not about the law, it's about what's in your heart, okay? And I will demonstrate that even while breaking the law here in public, I can still heal. I can still bring the power of God to this platform, okay? Then he brings it to the lake. Then he passes it on to the disciples. Okay? It's not about the law.
Yeah. Establishes this new community, this new 12 tribes, including one who betrays him. I had lunch yesterday with the rabbi. The rabbi always wants me to remind our community that when you read Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus, you should note that to a lot of people, they have seen the Jew part of that, and that was part of the anti-Semitic early centuries of Christianity, so we should remember that. But also, I've said to him there, you should remember also that he's included in the group of those closest to Jesus. So, there may be a betrayal narrative, but there's also an inclusion narrative. So even the betrayer is included. It's stunning, yeah.
I had no idea when I gave the floor that it was going to take that.
I know the feeling.
So anyway, I've been thinking a lot about this whole, as we were going through that whole sin piece and so thinking about sin is interesting because I grew up like many of us in a church that sin was I'm gonna move a little bit. Sin was kind of closely linked
to resist that accord.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. sin being kind of synonymous or closely linked to shame. And many of you have watched or listened to this Brene Brown speak. I've seen her past run on Facebook. And anyway, I just discovered it this week. I YouTubed the little clip she did called Listening to Shame. And if you haven't watched this, watch it this week for sure. It's really informative. Anyway, what I'm getting at is the thing that stuck with me the most, and when I listen to whether sins are forgiven or not forgiven, or whatever, I think about the fact that she made a distinction between guilt and shame. And for the first time in my life, I never really kind of noticed that there was a difference there. And she was talking about how guilt can actually be a good thing, because guilt says to you, I've done something bad. Or I've done something to hurt someone, or I've done something bad. Shame says, I am bad. And that's not the message of love and acceptance. So anyway, it's like I think that's like, I never made that connection. I'm like, oh, this is how we're supposed to view sin. Not that we're these horrible people, which is what I grew up with, was you're a horrible person, and you have this mark upon you that God can't even look upon you, kind of a thing. That's not it at all. So anyway, that was Brene Brown. Check it out.
All right, so that's chapter 3. The kids are back, which means that's that. What was that?
That starts next week. You all can't break it. Next week.
You said to mind me, I'm at home with my sorrow. You're all my lies that I'm with my friends. Well, is it hard waking up to tomorrow? Is there something that won't let you go? Just made me hollow. It's only just that this be my end. And you say that you can give a new day and erase my shame. We can start anew. We can make it all up again. We can make it through. We can get it all unstuck again. In the blanks that are waiting for us, all you want, your verse, your chorus to go. On the voice of a fleet of angels, we were meant to be more than strangers, not alone. Tell me how you want this thing to go. 'Cause dreams don't die and you're not on your own. We can start anew. We can make it all up again. we can make it through. We can get it on. Stop again. In the place that are waiting for us, how you want your verse, your chorus to go. On the voice of a fleet of angels, we were meant to be more than strangers, not alone. So tell me how you want this thing to go. 'Cause dreams don't die and you're not on your own. You're not alone. Why are you troubled? My hands and my feet. Your touch could be another way to see. Peace to your senses. The smell when you eat. The voice you hear when you aren't listening. So take it in with every conversation. Stay in peace.
Sexual chocolate. I believe if they ain't so fine, don't you agree? Lord! There's a God out there. So you